So, good morning. Let us discuss about 21st 28th June 2015 newspaper. Coming to this, the Varun Gandhi is giving some beautiful articles these days. So, what is the pattern he is following is this. First is, he is evaluating the need. Why do we need that? And then he is explaining the problem. Then he is talking about solution. And then we have to make an evaluation of the solutions which are being given by him. So what is the need with regard to the housing? Now if you see 65 million are the units which are required in India. Among this almost 18.9 million housing units are required in urban India. So there is a huge demand for housing and the government is trying to bring in housing for all. In these circumstances, he analyzed the problem over here. What is the problem? The first is absence of land. In many states, the Land Ceiling Act is still present, which is decreasing the availability of the land. Remember that Land Ceiling Act is one which was enacted on few objectives. That is to make the land available for all the needs and also including poor and marginalized. And later it was repealed on the same objectives too, because Land Ceiling Act in urban areas finally led to the failure of the act. And next is the floor space index. It is the number of or the total area covered on all floors of a building divided by total area of the plot. It means on a single plot how much of the area, built up area we are making. That is called floor space index. In India, the floor space index is relatively low. Because of this, vertical rise of the buildings is not happening. There is a horizontal spread, and this makes the availability of land much problematic. Next, weak buyer protection. Now, if you take registration department, if a plot or if a land is registered in someone's name, the registration will not provide for automatic protection to the buyer. Now registration will not ensure that the plot has been, or it will not ensure the history of the plot to in whose name it is and is the title is clear or not. So in this context, the registration of a land is more helping as a financial benefit to the government rather than providing for the protection to that particular title holder. And next is regulatory complexity. Now almost 34 different permissions are necessary to get a apartmental approval. Now this regulatory complexity is much high because of the delays, if we can say. Almost 2 to 3 years is necessary to start a housing project in India. And this regulatory complexity increases as we move from a large builder to the small builder in the country. Now affordability of the houses. 35% plus cost of a house comes in the form of various taxes imposed by the government. And the second thing is the availability of the loan is not very much strong for the housing sector. Now if you see any builder starting the project itself is very much difficult. So what the Varun Gandhi suggests is bringing the housing sector under the infrastructure definition so that access to the finances improves to them. And finally, the finances. Yes, as I discussed to you about the availability of the finances is very minimal for the because the banks do not believe in the real estate projects. Or most of the real estate projects are banks see them as converting into non-performance assets due to unviability of the projects. So it means existing housing structure is neither benefiting the user nor benefiting the banker or not benefiting the project or else person who is taking up the housing project. So what are the solutions given by him? So first one is to improve the buyer protection, the land record management has to be improved. So for this National Rural Land Record Management project which has been taken up and which is about to complete by 2018 is a promising thing. Next is, if you go to Hong Kong, there is a smart regulator. So what this smart regulator does, all the different permissions which are to be given by different agencies for a housing project, they are being clubbed through one single portal or one single window, which has provided for a simple funding simple approval mechanism. So such a smart regulator can be tried in India too. Next is on finances. The housing sector can be described as declared as an infrastructure project. So it gets long-term loans and also external commercial borrowings are opened up for this. And next is to improve the affordability. The Singapore's model can be better. If you can see National Housing Board of the Singapore, so it constructs the houses and sells it to the people. Now it talks about subsidization along with the market determination. Both of them are being clubbed together based on the levels of income you earn. So to that extent, the housing will also be subsidized, and your provident fund etc. are used as security to provide for the bank account, bank securities. So the provident fund amount will be used as a down payment for this National Housing Board. So it means various funds which an individual has are being freed from the government and they are used for buying the house. That's the reason why 80% of the people living in these NHB houses, they are their owners. And also, if you are a poor or weak, then you can get a rental house from NHB as low as $20 per month. It means that an affordable housing was made through a proper planning in Singapore, which can also be made in India too. Next is Rent Control Act. It has to be revisited so that more houses which are not being rented out can be freed up. So these are the things we can take up. Next is control of the judges in India. Now, there is no evaluation mechanism which is going towards the judges. If you take the higher judiciary too, so there are no evaluation mechanisms related to the judges. So in this context, what the article talks about is it brings in an international comparison. If you go to Denmark, Sweden, in Sweden we have ombudsman system. In Denmark, we have a special commission to take up that is called as a Special Court of Complaints. Special Court of Complaints in Denmark. If you have go to USA, to maintain the merit-based judiciary, multiple systems were put in practice. The first thing is a merit plan. So on this merit plan, the judges' selection and their continuance in the office will be decided by any neutral non-partisan elections. And next is there is Judicial Performance Review Commission or councils. So these are there in the new arc. It means this is a neutral body which will see the progress of the judiciary. And added to that, trained court observers. These make the sudden inspections towards the courts to see the proceedings, and also judges evaluated based on his communication skills, ability to impartially give the judgments, etc. Now, in India, there is no mechanism for this performance appraisal. So, in this context, there is a famous statement of Lord Denning. So, what the Lord Denning said is, in UK, the highest court is the Lord of House of Lords. Now, above this House of Lords, also there is another court that is called as Law Quarterly Review. Similarly, in US, Harvard Law Review, it is one of the important document which evaluates the various judgments. In India, also one such a law review can be brought by the reputed law institutions, which can make or which can review the judgments given by the judges. Next, after this, this article talks about communalism. In Hindu, there are series of articles coming on to this. So recently in Haryana, that is in Atali village, there was communalism. The character of this communal riot is different from the previous things. What the author says is the communal riot here is targeted about upward movement of the Muslims, especially the people who are wealthy off. Their houses were targeted and shattered, and there is no damage in the form of life. So wherever there is a damage in the form of life, it is extracting the media attention. But wherever damage to the property, etc., is not much taken care of. So it means a kind of restriction of the Muslims with regard to their mobility is being controlled through the communal rioting. So this character of economic dimension of the rioting is visible now. It's a kind of a new restraint or conditionality imposed on the Muslims, how they have to use their citizenship. That is what has been talked about. Next is the scourge of racism. Recently, in North Carolina, in United States, a church was firing happened in the church by a white man who believed about white supremacy. So that exposed the friction and also the factions, racial factions in United States of America. Now, if we go further, so the treatment of the police to the African Americans and whites meet it to be different, and added to that the gun culture in the United States, which is posing a grave threat to the citizen and their life, has to be revisited. Obama, though, tried to control the gun culture. There is no support for from the conservative Republicans. That shows the more danger to the America is from within rather than from the terror from outside. And with regard to the U.S. Congress, that is the country terrorism report of United States, it has said India, instead of its loud talk and terrorism, it is not very much active. So there is Anti-Money Laundering Act, and next is counter-terrorism financing laws and their implementation. If we see, they are very weak in India. Just we can quote this to substantiate our statement when we argue about the terrorism or security issues. So finally, the social media is booming in India. The social media, so the remarkable changes on the rural front, it is increasing. The growth is 100% on the rural front, where it has increased to 25 million. So many of the people on the rural front are accessing the internet to access the social media. Onto the urban India, so now it is around 118 million. There is 35% growth. It means the social media is more a reality in our lives. So it means how the social media is going to impact our life can be expected as a question this year. Now coming to media, let us try to understand few things. So there is a book written by Bill Kovach and Tom Rosenthal. So this book is called The Elements of Journalism. So you can quote this book in your essay. So the Bill Kovach and Tom Rosenthal, so they wrote a book called Elements of Journalism. So they discussed about what are the basic tenets of journalism has to be. So journalism first obligation has to be truth. Its first loyalty has to be to the citizens. The essence is discipline of verification, and it must serve as independent monitor of the power. So like that, certain statements are being given. They can be used wherever are necessary when you argue about media or when you like to build an answer regarding media. So thank you very much.